Terraria has a whole lot of bosses. I feel like talking about how these bosses are designed and what makes them fun. Most Terraria bosses, especially early on, have pretty simple sets of attacks. Often, there's also a sort of rhythm to these attacks, or the movement required to dodge them. But without something to break up these patterns, fights would get pretty monotonous quickly. So most bosses have attacks that are either avoided entirely differently, or make you interact with other attacks differently. Duke Fishron is a great example of a simple moveset and pattern being fun to fight. The tornadoes he spawns make the fight a lot more engaging, forcing you to move to different parts of your arena often. This works especially well because the fight is confined to the ocean biome. The Empress of Light has something similar with the Everlasting Rainbows, but her attack cycle is a lot more varied, requiring different combinations of movements from the player. But even Skeletron's a pretty fun fight, especially in Legendary mode. The head-spinning attack breaks up the homing skull dodging pattern, and the Dark Casters make you take the fight mostly to the air. It's also nice when bosses maintain their secondary attack, but make the player interact with it differently in their second phase. Even with a good first phase pattern, Terraria bosses need to change during the fight, ideally also becoming more difficult. The Wall of Flesh works without distinct phases because it gets faster and more damaging as it nears death, constantly ramping up the pressure. And the Moonlord devolves into absolute chaos in the second phase, unless you master the timings to sink the True Eyes of Cthulhu. A few bosses actually get easier later in the fight. The twins get away with it because when one is in its second phase, the fight is much more difficult than it started. However, the Eater of Worlds and Destroyer share a problem, where they get easier as the fight goes on, and they also lack things to break up the normal patterns of the fight. Some bosses are just kinda iffy, like Plantera, Skeletron, Prime, and Golem. Each of them has something missing. Plantera doesn't have anything to break up the patterns, though this isn't as much of an issue in the second phase. Skeletron Prime gets really repetitive after a little bit because of the lack of a second phase. And Golem doesn't really have any moveset changes throughout the fight. There's also an entirely subjective element to boss design. A boss can have everything I mentioned in this video but still suck. Or it can lack a few things and be just fine. There are a lot of factors that go into this, like the stage of progression it's in and where it is fought. I also think most bosses should have more than one killable entity during the fight. Terraria bosses should also change the world itself, or how the player interacts with the world once they are defeated. They should also be possible to stumble upon naturally, whether by spawning by themselves, or making the player curious about something unusual they spot. Also, some Terraria bosses are themed after one specific thing, like the Moonlord. The Moonlord is designed after Cthulhu, and is made to overwhelm the player with various projectiles and his sheer size. Even the sound he makes when he's damaged contributes to this. The fight maintains a chaotic nature without going overboard, until the second phase. His design is also very unique, even compared to other Terraria bosses. Anyway, thanks for watching. This was just a shorter video to try something different while I work on another playthrough video. See ya.